The alien marketplace was full of noise, shouting, and dirty deals. Creatures from 10 different planets argued over weapons, tools, and broken tech. The smell of oil and sweat filled the air. Jace, a human trader, walked slowly through the crowd, his eyes scanning everything. He had come to trade a shipment of scrap metal from his ship, hoping to get enough credits to refuel and repair. But something strange happened. An old alien merchant with rough, scaly skin stopped him. "You want credits?" The alien said, laughing in a low voice. "I'll give you something better, taker." Jace frowned, looking behind the merchant. There, sitting in the dirt with chains on her hands and ankles, was a young alien girl. She had silver blue skin, long black hair full of dust, and golden eyes that stared straight at the ground. She didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. "She broken?" Jace asked. The alien grinned, showing sharp teeth. "No, just quiet, useless, and cursed." "Then why would I want her?" Jace said, crossing his arms. "Because I owe you payment, and no one else wants her." The alien shrugged. "Take her or leave with nothing." Jace looked at the girl again. Something about her felt wrong, but not in a bad way, more like she didn't belong there. She wasn't shaking or crying like other slaves he had seen. She just sat there, still, proud in some silent way. Her wrists were bruised from the cuffs, but her back was straight. The merchant held out a small device. "A transfer chip." Jace sighed and took it. "Fine, but if she causes trouble, I'll bring her back." "You won't," the alien said, grinning. "No one ever does." Jace reached down and touched the chain, unlocking the cuffs. The girl looked up at him slowly, her golden eyes finally meeting his. They weren't empty, they were full of something powerful, something royal, but she said nothing. He motioned for her to stand, and she did, weakly. Her knees shook, but she walked beside him, quiet like a shadow. As they moved through the crowd, some laughed. "Human's got himself a cursed girl." One shouted, "Hope you like nightmares, human." Another yelled, but Jace ignored them, keeping his hand on her back to guide her toward his ship. Inside the cargo bay of his old transport ship, Jace sat her down on a crate. He gave her water and a protein bar. She didn't eat, just held the food in her hands and stared at the floor. "What's your name?" he asked. No answer. "Do you speak?" Still no answer. He sighed and stood. "Look, I don't know what happened to you, but I didn't take you to hurt you, okay?" She slowly blinked, then looked away. Fine, he thought. Maybe tomorrow. Jace went to the cockpit, running the systems. Check. The engines were weak, fuel low, but they could reach the next station. He leaned back in the chair, thinking about the girl. Why did he take her? She wasn't part of the plan, but something in those eyes had held him for just a second, like she had called to him without words. He closed his eyes. That night, he dreamed of golden eyes glowing in darkness. He woke up sweating, the sound of metal clinking in his ears. He grabbed his pistol and rushed to the cargo bay. The girl was standing there, holding a sharp tool in her hand. But she wasn't attacking. Instead, she held it out toward him, then dropped it to the floor. Jace stared at her, confused. "Please," she whispered for the first time, her voice soft and shaky. "Don't send me back." Her voice was like music, weak, afraid, but full of something deep. Jace slowly lowered his weapon. "I wasn't going to," he said. She dropped to her knees, pressing her forehead to the floor. He stepped closer, unsure what to say. The ship hummed around them, quiet and alone in the stars. One human, one alien girl, and a secret neither of them had spoken yet. Jace looked down at her. He didn't know who she really was, but he was about to find out, and nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The ship drifted through deep space, surrounded by silence. Inside, the engines hummed softly, and the lights flickered with age, but something felt different now. There was a new presence aboard, quiet, tense, and full of unspoken weight. The alien girl sat near the wall of the cargo bay, knees pulled to her chest. Jace watched her from the other side of the room, pretending to check wires. She hadn't moved for hours. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't said another word. It was Like having a ghost on his ship, a living shadow. Even when he turned away, he could feel her golden eyes watching him, not in fear, not in hate, but something else. He placed a small tray of food and water next to her. "You've got to eat sometime," he said, his voice low but not unkind. She didn't respond, not even a blink. Jace sat across from her, picking up a piece of dried meat from his own plate. He chewed slowly, making sure she saw him. "This isn't poison, you know," he joked. "I'd never serve anything that expensive." Still no reaction. The silence pressed against him. Thicker than steel walls, he leaned back, arms crossed. "You've got some secrets, huh?" She tilted her head slightly, just a tiny movement, but it was the first sign she had heard him. He leaned in, voice soft and curious now. "You're not just some slave girl," he said. "I've seen slaves. You don't act like them." No reply. "Your hands. Soft, not rough like someone who worked in mines or factories." Still silent, but her breathing changed, like a ripple in still water. "And your eyes," Jace added, narrowing his own. "Those are the eyes of someone who was once obeyed." He expected her to stay quiet, but this time her lips moved. "One word, wrong," she whispered. Without looking up, Jace sat up straight, surprised. "You speak again," he said. "Progress." She shook her head. "I don't speak," she said softly. "I survive." Her voice was strange, beautiful, but careful, like someone who had learned the hard way that words could be dangerous. Jace wanted to ask more, but he stopped himself. She had spoken. That was enough for now. Later that night, Jace couldn't sleep. He walked to the cockpit, stars stretching endlessly in every direction. He looked down at a small holopic on the console, a picture of his brother. They used to trade together before pirates attacked. His brother died saving him. Now Jace traveled alone, taking odd jobs and broken deals, and yet here he was again, risking everything for someone else. A girl who wouldn't even tell him her name. Suddenly, a soft noise echoed from the hallway. Jace turned quickly, hand on his blaster, footsteps light, slow, careful. She stepped into the cockpit doorway, her silver blue skin glowing in the console lights. Her hair was wet. She had used the small washroom. She wore a long shirt he had left for her, way too big for her frame. In her hand, she held the food tray, empty now. Jace smiled slightly. "So you ate?" She nodded once. "I don't want trouble," she said, her voice calm now. "If you take me to the next port, I will disappear." "That simple?" he asked. "Just vanish again like you did before." "Someone sold you?" Her eyes flashed, not with anger, but something darker. "I wasn't sold," she said, voice like steel. "I was given away." Jace froze. "Given away? By who?" She looked at the stars outside, silent for a long time. Then finally she said, "Someone who feared what I might become." And with that, she turned and walked back to the cargo bay, leaving Jace with more questions than answers. As she vanished into the shadows, Jace whispered to himself, "What kind of girl gets feared before she's even grown?" He didn't know it yet, but the girl he picked up for nothing was about to become the most dangerous passenger he'd ever carried, and she was hiding more than just a name. She was hiding an entire world's truth. The next few days passed slowly. The alien girl still barely spoke, but she moved differently now, not like a prisoner, more like someone waiting for something, watching every corner of the ship, memorizing every sound, like a soldier in hiding. Jace noticed it. Every time he left a room, she scanned it with her eyes. Every time he adjusted a control, she watched his fingers like she was learning. "All right, Ghost," he said one morning as he checked the nav panel. "Still not telling me your name?" She stood behind him silently. He turned, raising one eyebrow. "You've got a name, right? Or should I just keep calling you, Hey You, forever?" The girl tilted her head, then whispered, "Syrah?" Jace repeated, "Pretty name." She nodded once, looking away. He didn't believe her. It sounded too easy, too quick, like a name pulled from a storybook. But he didn't push her, not yet. They landed on a desert station called Vexline Outposta. Pit stop in the middle of nowhere. Jace needed fuel and some rare parts. He planned to stay only an hour, but the heat outside made him feel dizzy. Syrah stepped out of the ship, and the sun hit her silver blue skin. Heads turned instantly. A few aliens stared too long. Others quickly looked away, nervous. Jace didn't like the attention. He pulled a cloak over her head and whispered, "Stay." Close, inside the market dome, they moved through the dusty halls. Syrah followed without speaking. But her eyes were wide, watching everything. Suddenly she froze, in the middle of the crowd. A group of tall masked guards were scanning every person that passed. Their armor was black and gold, the colors of the Royal Order of Taralis, a powerful empire, one known for tracking down anyone who challenged their rule. Jace felt a chill in his stomach. The guards weren't just scanning, they were searching. He grabbed Syrah's hand and whispered, "This way." But she was already moving, ducking behind a broken stall. Jace followed fast. And together, they weaved through side alleys behind the shops. "Tell me what's going on," Jace hissed. But Syrah kept running, breathing hard, eyes wild. When they finally stopped behind a locked fuel shack, she fell to the ground shaking. "They're here for me," she whispered. "I know those guards." "You know them?" "They used to protect me," she said, "before they were ordered to throw me away." Jace blinked. "Protect you? Like a noble or something?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled something from around her neck, hidden under her shirt. A tiny silver ring engraved with a royal crest. "I lied," she said softly. "My name isn't Syrah." Jace crouched in front of her, heart pounding. "What is your real name?" "Princess Syrah Valen of Taralis," she said. "The rightful heir to a throne that tried to erase me." The name hit him like thunder. He had heard it before years ago, in broadcasts. Across the galaxy, a royal child declared dead in a shuttle accident. A power shift in Taralis' rule soon followed. "That was you?" Jace asked. "Yes," she said. "They tried to kill me, but I survived. Someone sold me before I could speak again." Jace leaned back against the wall, stunned. "I accepted a slave as payment," he muttered. "But I took a missing princess instead." Syrah looked down, her voice hollow. "I don't care about the throne," she said. "I just want to live without chains." For a long moment, they were both silent, outside. The guards' voices echoed through the streets. "They're not going to stop," Jace said, standing up. "If they find you, you'll disappear forever." Syrah stood beside him, her chin raised. "Then let's make sure they don't find me." Jace nodded once, but inside his thoughts were racing. This wasn't just about hiding her anymore. This was about protecting the truth. The truth about a girl who was born to rule, but had been thrown away like garbage. Now she had a second chance, and Jace had unknowingly become the man holding her fate in his hands. He looked at her and said, "If I help you, I want the truth, all of it." Syrah met his eyes, steady now, no longer hiding. "You'll have it," she said. "But be ready, truth like mine gets people killed." Asterisk floated quietly in deep space, far from the outpost, far from scanners, far from the reach of kings and traitors. But the storm inside the ship had just begun. Jace sat in the pilot's seat, silent. The girl now. The princess stood behind him, arms crossed, her golden eyes fixed on the stars. Her name was still fresh in his mind, Syrah Valen, the last living heir to the Taralis Empire. A name that could get them both killed. "I shouldn't have told you," she said, her voice low. Jace didn't look at her. "But you did," he replied. "And now I'm flying around with a walking target on my ship." Syrah looked down, guilty but calm. "You saved me," she said. "You didn't have to." "I didn't know who you were," he said. "If I had, maybe I wouldn't have." There was a long silence. Then Jace turned in his seat, eyes sharp but not cruel. "Tell me everything," he said. "No more half-truths." Syrah walked to the back of the ship and sat on the floor. She pulled the silver ring from around her neck again, letting it rest in her palm. My father was emperor, she began. A good man, strong but fair. He was planning to change things, end the slave trades, open borders, give power to the people. But someone didn't want that. Your cousin, Jace guessed. Soraya nodded slowly. Yes, Lord Kale. My father's brother, she said. He poisoned the court with lies, made it look like my father had grown weak. When I was 10, he sent men to kill me during a fake shuttle crash. But I didn't die. She looked up at Jace. I woke up in chains, she whispered. No one recognized me. No one believed me. And so, I stayed silent, Jace frowned. All this time, and no one searched for you? Anyone who tried, she said softly, was silenced. Jace leaned back, processing her words. You were trained, weren't you? He asked. Before everything trained to lead. Soraya gave a small nod. I studied 5 languages before I turned 8, she said. Military command, diplomacy, economic systems. I knew how to give orders before I knew how to play, Jace chuckled bitterly. No wonder you watch every move I make. You're judging me, she said. Not judging, Jace replied. Just realizing. I'm stuck with a girl who could probably rule half the galaxy. Soraya smirked, the first time she had ever smiled since he met her. But I'd rather just breathe without fear, she said. Power doesn't matter if you're always running. Jace stood and walked toward the wall panel. He pressed a few buttons, and a small holomap lit up, showing nearby systems. We can't keep hiding, he said. Kale will send more men. Stronger ones. What do you want to do? She asked. There's a place, Jace said, tapping the map. The Ice Ring Cluster pirate space. No scanners, no laws. We might lose them there. Soraya tilted her head. Or die there. Yeah, Jace said. But at least we choose. How? That night, while the ship moved through the stars, Soraya stayed in the cockpit, alone. She stared at the stars with a calm face, but burning eyes. Memories haunted her, of her palace, her father's smile, the warm lights of the royal library, all gone, stolen, buried under lies. She touched her silver ring and whispered, If I can't be queen, then let me be something they can't control. In the shadows of the ship, a tiny blinking device activated. Hidden under one of the crates, a tracker began to blink. Unknown to them both, someone had already found them, someone who had been waiting for the princess to speak, waiting for her to trust the wrong person. But she hadn't, not yet. And when she learned the truth about who placed that tracker, even the stars would tremble. The ship was quiet, but danger was screaming through space, closing in like a shadow. Jace sat in the cockpit, eyes on the nav screen, trying to reroute their path. Soraya stood beside him, arms crossed, golden eyes locked on the blinking red dot. Someone had tracked them, not just followed. Hunted. That tracker wasn't in her, Jace had said earlier, checking her arms and neck with care. It was hidden under my ship, buried deep, wired to the hull. Soraya had stared at him, silent, then softly asked, Do you trust anyone besides me? No, Jace replied. And now I don't even trust the air I breathe. The red dot blinked again, closer this time. Jace's ship was fast, but the ship chasing them was military class. He cursed under his breath, hitting buttons faster, trying to shake the signal. We can't outrun it, he said. Not in this rust bucket. Soraya said nothing. She walked toward the back of the ship, opened the weapons locker. Jace turned and raised an eyebrow. You even know how to use that? I was trained by the Royal Guard, she said, lifting the plasma rifle. Jace blinked. Remind me never to play cards with you. They landed on a dusty mining moon, deep inside the Ice Ring Cluster. No laws here, no safety, just rock and criminals. Jace tried to keep his head down, but people noticed them, a human man and a strange, graceful alien girl who didn't belong. They found an old contact of Jace's, Slick Vero, a greasy arms dealer with too many eyes and not enough teeth. Vero smiled wide when he saw Jace, but his smile vanished when he saw Soraya. Do you know who you're carrying? He hissed, pulling Jace aside. Tell me, Jace said flatly. There's a bounty, Vero whispered. Not just for her, but for you two now dead or alive. Jace felt the floor vanish beneath him. Why me? Because you're with her, Vero said. And Kale doesn't like risks. He handed Jace a small holopad. The screen showed his own face, next to Soraya's. Underneath, wanted -500,000 credits. Jace walked back to Soraya, trying to stay calm. She saw his face and understood. They added you, she said quietly. I'm honored, Jace joked bitterly. Didn't even get a crown. Suddenly, the wall beside them exploded. Guards rushed in, mercenaries in black armor, shouting orders and aiming guns. Jace grabbed Soraya's arm and pulled her behind the bar. Blaster fire rained down. Bottles exploded. The ground shook. Soraya crawled to the far side and fired back sharp. Accurate shots that dropped 2 attackers. Jace covered her, tossing a smoke bomb in the chaos. They ran through the back alley, hearts pounding, boots slipping on metal. This doesn't stop, Jace said as they ran. No matter where we go. Soraya looked at him, face full of dust and firelight. Then we stop running, she said. We fight. They reached the ship and launched, leaving fire behind them. Jace checked the damage. Engine burned. Shields cracked. They barely escaped alive later. As the stars rolled past the windows, Jace sat in silence. He had taken a girl for trade. Now he was a wanted man, hunted across systems, just for protecting her, but somehow he didn't regret it. She had fought beside him like a soldier, protected him like a friend. She was more than a princess. She was his partner now. Soraya sat across from him, holding the silver ring in her hand. This isn't just about me anymore, she said. No, Jace agreed. It's about making sure they pay for what they've done. He leaned forward. No more hiding, he said. If I've got a bounty, I might as well earn it. Soraya smiled a rare, dangerous smile. Then let's make the whole empire tremble. Asterisk. The stars looked peaceful. But inside Jace's ship, war was coming. Not in the form of armies, but in the form of truth. Truth strong enough to crush a throne. Jace leaned over the control panel, scanning the layout of the royal capital moon. Terali's Prime, a city floating in orbit, beautiful on the outside, rotten inside. Looks like a paradise, he muttered. But it's just a prison with golden walls. Soraya stood beside him, her eyes hard. I was born there, she said, but I never really lived. She tapped the screen, pointing to a tall tower at the center. The Royal Archive is here. If we get the security footage from my father's death, the world will know Kale lied. And if we don't? Jace asked. Then I stay a ghost, she said. And Kale keeps wearing my father's crown. Jace nodded. They wore stolen uniforms and slipped through a freight ship heading to Terali's Prime. It was dangerous, stupid, even, but they were done running. This time, they were going into the fire inside the capital. Everything was quiet and perfect. Clean air, shining floors, flowers that never died. But Soraya's steps were heavy. She remembered this place as a child when guards smiled at her, when halls echoed with music. Now the guards carried shock rifles and the music was silence. They reached the archive tower through a maintenance tunnel. Jace hacked the panel with tools made from junk. The door slid open, and the room was full of blinking lights and old memories. This is it, Soraya whispered. Rows of files, data cubes, voice logs. Jace plugged in a small drive, downloading files fast. Then he found an old video hidden deep. Labeled only Incident 1, a royal shuttle crash. They played it. And the truth unfolded in front of their eyes. The shuttle hadn't failed. It was blown from the inside, by Kale's own men. And in the background, young Soraya, crying, crawling from the wreckage. Alive, proof, Jace said. Solid. Unbreakable. We need to broadcast it. Soraya said, let the people see. Suddenly, alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. Steel doors slammed down. They were trapped. Jace pulled his blaster. Soraya grabbed the drive. Boots echoed in the hall outside. Kale himself walked in, dressed in royal black, his eyes cold as ice. "Well, well," he said, smiling. "The dead girl lives." Saraya stepped forward, voice strong. "You stole the crown." She said, "You tried to kill me." Kale raised an eyebrow. "Because you were weak," he said. "And because you believed in peace." Jace fired. First plasma bolts lit the air. Chaos broke loose. Saraya ducked, rolled, fired her aim perfect. Jace covered her, taking down guards one by one, but more kept coming. Smoke filled the room. Fire danced across the walls. Then, Saraya grabbed the drive and sprinted to the emergency console. With a single push, she loaded the footage into the palace-wide feed. The screen above lit up, and the entire capital watched the truth. The crash, the betrayal, the child in the fire. Every citizen saw Kale for what he truly was, a murderer wearing a crown. Outside, shouts rose. Protests began. Guards hesitated, unsure who to obey. The empire began to shake from within. Kale roared in anger and charged at Saraya, but Jace stepped in front of her. Fists clenched. "You're done," Jace growled. He punched Kale so hard the man hit the floor and didn't rise again. Saraya stood over him, breathing hard, but she didn't kill him. She turned to the guards and said, "No more blood, no more lies. It ends today." The guards dropped their weapons. The people outside shouted her name, not in fear, but in hope. Jace walked to her side, blood on his shirt, dust in his hair. "You did it," he said. "No," Saraya said softly, looking at him. "We did." The palace lights had dimmed. The crowd outside had stopped shouting. Terali's prime stood still like the entire empire was holding its breath. Saraya sat alone in the royal garden, barefoot on the soft grass. She had returned to the place where she once played as a child, but the girl who used to laugh here was gone, and the woman who returned was not looking for a crown. Inside the palace, news played across every screen. Princess Saraya Valen alive. Royal cousin arrested for treason. Empire enters new era. But Saraya wasn't celebrating. She was tired, soul tired. The throne was now offered to her by the council, begged by senators, demanded by the people, but she didn't answer them. She waited for only one voice. Footsteps approached, soft but steady. Jace walked toward her, bruised, patched up. But alive, he didn't bow, didn't salute. He just sat beside her and handed her a small metal box. Inside was her silver ring, cleaned and shining again. "They fixed it," he said. "The symbol of a queen." Saraya looked at it, then closed the box. "I don't want to be queen," she whispered. Jace raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" She turned to him, eyes glowing gold under the moonlight. "Because people still think I need to rule to matter," she said. "But I matter even without a crown." Jace smiled. "Good," he said. "Because I make a terrible bodyguard." They both laughed for the first time in what felt like forever. Then she leaned closer and said something that made his heart stop. "You didn't just save me," she said. "You showed me I could be something more." "Like what?" he asked. Saraya smiled softly. "Free," she whispered. "Finally free." Jace stood and held out his hand. "Then let's leave this place," he said. "You've got enough enemies. It's time to find friends." She took his hand without hesitation. They walked past guards who lowered their heads in respect, past advisors who begged for her to stay, past golden doors that once trapped her like a cage. They reached the ship, still old, still dented, still theirs. Jace helped her into the seat like he always had, but this time, she didn't sit like a passenger. She sat beside him, equal, ready, reborn. As the engines lifted the ship off the landing pad, the stars opened before them. Behind them, a broken empire was healing. Ahead of them, a life unplanned. No throne, no chains, no lies, just a human. And a girl who was once a slave, once a princess. But now she was more. Where to? Jace asked, smiling. Saraya looked at the stars and replied, "Anywhere we want." And with that, the ship disappeared into the black, Two souls, once. Lost, now found. Not by fate, not by blood, but by choice, together.